The late Sunday brunch rush hummed inside the Maple Crest Diner, a cozy place known for its checkered floors, shiny chrome trim, and the smell of fresh coffee drifting through the air. Families filled the tables, clinking silverware and chatting as servers weaved around them. Behind the counter, a waitress named Sabrina tapped her pen against her order pad, her patience already thin. She was young, sharp bob haircut, glossy lipstick, and an attitude that showed she had been working too many double shifts. She liked to think she could judge a table before she even reached it. That was her mistake. The doorbells jingled as a family entered. The Harris family. A black family of four, neatly dressed, peaceful, smiling. Marcus, the father, wore a navy sweater and glasses. Danielle, the mother, looked elegant and warm in a soft beige coat. Their children, Liam and Chloe, walked close beside them, excited and curious about everything. They approached the host stand, but Sabrina, leaning on her elbow near the counter, let out a small sigh, barely hiding her disinterest. "Table for four?" Marcus asked politely. The host nodded and led them to a booth near the window. Sabrina watched them walk past her and rolled her eyes, letting out a quiet, breathy laugh as if she already knew how this table would be. "Probably going to ask for substitutions and complain about prices," she muttered under her breath to another server. The other server didn't respond, but the comment hung in the air. Sabrina grabbed her order pad and strolled toward the table with a forced smile, stopping just short of warm. "Welcome to Maple Crest. Drinks?" she asked, tone flat, pen already poised like she wanted this done. Danielle smiled kindly, unfazed. "Yes, I'll have an Earl Grey tea, please." Sabrina jotted it down quickly, eyes flicking away. Liam spoke next, cheerful. "Can I get hot chocolate?" Sabrina raised a brow. "You can, but it's extra." Marcus gently placed a hand on his son's shoulder, still smiling. "That's okay. He'll have it." Sabrina shrugged lightly, almost dismissively. Chloe shifted in her seat, glancing at Sabrina's face, and then at her mom, sensing something even if she didn't fully understand it. Marcus and Danielle, though composed, noticed everything. The rolled eyes, the tone, the subtle impatience. They didn't react, yet. When Sabrina returned with the drinks, she set them down quickly, too quickly. Hot chocolate sloshing near the rim, almost spilling. "Careful," she said in a tone that made it sound like their fault. Then came the eye roll when Marcus politely asked if they could have extra napkins. Then, the heavy sigh when the kids asked questions about the menu. Then, the visible impatience when Danielle asked whether the soup had chicken stock. All small things, but clear things. The family didn't raise their voices, they didn't trade frustrated glances, they didn't complain. They simply ate. They talked. They were patient in a way that wasn't weak, but rooted in something steady and unshakable. And that was what unsettled Sabrina most. She couldn't get a reaction. When the meal was nearly done, Sabrina slapped the bill down on the table with a casual, careless flick of the wrist. "You can pay up front whenever you're ready," she said, already turning away. No smile, no courtesy. Danielle reached calmly into her purse and pulled out a sleek leather folder, one that looked far nicer than the ambience around them. Inside were 2 ID cards. Government issued. Official. Marcus stood, buttoning his sweater with quiet grace. "Actually," he said, voice calm but firm, "we'll need to speak with your manager. We're here to evaluate your service and hospitality standards." Sabrina froze. Her pen slipped from her hand. The table clearing she was about to do became a full stop, her heartbeat suddenly loud in her ears. Restaurant inspectors. The Harris family. The family she had written off before she even said a word to them. The family she treated like an inconvenience. And now they were the ones who would evaluate her. The dining room went suddenly quiet, though no one knew why, yet. Sabrina's face went pale as realization settled heavily in her chest. And this was only the beginning. The moment Marcus spoke, the atmosphere of the diner seemed to shift as though a silent bell had been rung that only Sabrina could hear. Her heart thudded loudly in her chest, while the dining room carried on around her, unaware of the significance of what had just been revealed. Marcus calmly removed his inspection badge from its holder and placed it gently on the table where its polished emblem caught the light. Danielle did the same, her expression composed, steady, and professional. The children sat quietly, understanding from their parents' demeanor that this was not a moment for noise or reaction, but one of clarity. Sabrina's throat tightened as she tried to speak, but all that came out was a faint, uh, I, I'll get the manager. Her voice shook, her confidence gone like air from a balloon. She hurried toward the back, nearly bumping into a busboy. The manager, a middle-aged man named Tom, emerged a moment later, confusion etched across his face. "Is there a problem here?" he asked with a practiced, polite customer service tone. Marcus offered a gentle nod, his voice unwavering. "No problem, just business. We are with the Regional Restaurant Quality and Service Council. This visit was unscheduled, by design." Tom's face went slack. He looked at Sabrina, who stood behind him, pale with dread. Danielle opened her notebook, pages already filled with neat, organized observations. "Our goal is always improvement, not punishment," she said, tone smooth and clear. "But there are several service concerns that need to be addressed." Tom swallowed hard and gestured for them to sit, his posture suddenly respectful, deferential. He listened as Danielle began listing the behavior they experienced, not with anger or drama, but with precise professional clarity. Dismissive tone, lack of courtesy, visible eye-rolling, careless handling of dishes, unequal warmth shown to different tables. Tom's expression tightened more with each item. "We also noticed," Marcus added, "that other tables were greeted more warmly and provided more attentive service. That inconsistency needs to be evaluated." Sabrina stood stiffly, tears forming but not yet falling, her mind racing back through the past hour. She remembered every rolled eye, every sigh, every assumption. And now, standing in the fluorescent light of the diner, she felt exposed, not because someone had humiliated her, but because her own choices were finally being held up to her. I I didn't mean to," she began. But Danielle raised a hand gently, stopping her. Not cruel, simply firm. "Intent is not the measure of impact," Danielle said. "How we treat people matters, especially in work where respect is the foundation." The words were not loud, not sharp, but they landed with weight. Tom looked from Sabrina to the Harris family, realizing what this moment represented. Not just a failed interaction, but a reflection of his business's culture. "If you'd allow me," he said, voice quieter now, "I'd like the chance to correct this." Marcus nodded. "That's the purpose of inspection." Sabrina felt her breath hitch, as relief mixed with guilt and something deeper, understanding. The Harris family stood to leave, preparing to conclude their evaluation and file their report. But as they gathered their things, Chloe, the youngest, looked back at Sabrina, her voice innocent but sincere. "You don't have to be mean to people," she said simply. "It's easier to be kind." It was a gentle truth, spoken by a child, but it hit harder than any reprimand could have. Sabrina's tears finally spilled over, and she didn't look away this time. The Harris family walked toward the exit, dignified, steady, and united, leaving behind more than a report. They left a lesson that would linger long after the diner returned to its normal Sunday rhythm. And tomorrow, change would start with Sabrina. The next morning, the Maple Crest Diner felt quieter than usual, even though the breakfast rush was just starting. Sunlight streamed through the big front windows, reflecting off the chrome napkin holders and stainless steel coffee pots. Sabrina stood behind the counter, tying her apron slower than usual, her movements thoughtful, deliberate. She had barely slept. Every moment from the day before replayed again and again. The rolled eyes, the sighs, the careless tone. She could see it all now with painful clarity, like she was watching another version of herself, one she didn't entirely recognize. She hadn't been proud of that girl. Tom, the manager, called a quick staff meeting before the doors officially opened. The servers gathered in a small circle near the coffee station. Some leaned against counters, still waking up. Others stood stiffly, sensing something serious was coming. Tom cleared his throat. "Everyone, we need to talk about yesterday." The room went still. Sabrina kept her eyes on the floor. "We had an unannounced service inspection," Tom continued, voice firm but even. "And some things did not go the way they should have." Murmurs around the group went quiet. "This place has always said we treat everyone like family," Tom went on, looking around. "But saying it and doing it are two different things." Sabrina felt a sting of shame, because those words were meant for everyone, but they fit her most of all. Tom didn't name her. He didn't have to. Everyone knew. The other servers didn't glare or distance themselves. If anything, they looked at her differently. Not judgment, recognition. Everyone had had that day. The difference was she had been seen, clearly. "We'll be having a service training refresh," Tom continued, "and I expect everyone to take it seriously. People remember how you make them feel. That's our real product, not pancakes, not coffee, experience." When the meeting ended, Sabrina stayed back, gripping the edge of the counter, grounding herself. She knew she couldn't avoid it. She walked into Tom's office quietly. "I want to say something," she began, voice low and steady. Tom looked up from his computer, giving her his full attention. "I know I messed up," Sabrina said without excuse or justification. "I was rude, I was impatient, and it wasn't because of the Harris family. It was me. I assumed things. I didn't treat them with respect. I embarrassed myself, and I embarrassed this place." Tom exhaled slowly, but his expression wasn't harsh. It was thoughtful. "Sabrina, you're not a bad person," he said, "but you made a bad choice, more than one. You can't change yesterday, but you can choose who you are today." She nodded, swallowing hard. "I want to do better." "Good," Tom replied, "because improvement starts with honesty." She left the office feeling heavier, but also lighter. There was pain in acknowledging who she had been, but there was power in choosing to leave that version behind. The real test came at 11:32 a.m. when a family of 5 walked in. Parents, 3 kids, weekend energy, hungry and excited. A table Sabrina normally would have braced for. She took a breath and walked toward them, not rushed, not annoyed, not performative, just present. "Hi there," she said warmly, genuinely. "I'm Sabrina. I'll be taking care of you today. What can I get started for you?" The mother smiled. The father relaxed. The kids lit up. The interaction was simple, ordinary. But for Sabrina, it was the beginning of everything new. And though the Harris family was gone, back into their lives, back into their work, their presence remained, not like a shadow, but like a compass. A reminder that kindness is a choice you make every time you open your mouth, every time you approach a table, every time you decide who you're going to be. And Sabrina was finally choosing with intention. The diner didn't look different, but Sabrina did. And that meant the diner was already beginning to change. 2 weeks passed, and the diner slowly began to feel different. Not just in how it looked, but in how it moved. The staff spoke to customers with more patience. They checked in more often. They learned names. There was laughter in places where there had once been exhausted silence. Even the regulars noticed. "Service has gotten real nice lately," one elderly man said while stirring his coffee. Tom nodded, though he knew the change had come from more than training videos and memos. It had come from a shift in intention. Sabrina felt it too in the ease of her steps, the way she didn't dread certain tables anymore. She was learning to meet people, not as assumptions, annoyances, or stereotypes. It was harder work than rushing and dismissing, but it felt better, more human. On a quiet Thursday afternoon, the door jingled again. Sabrina glanced up automatically, ready with her new practiced warmth, until she froze. It was the Harris family. They stepped inside like any other guests, not like inspectors, not like people returning to test her, but simply like a family going out to lunch. Chloe pointed excitedly at the dessert display. Liam grinned at the chalkboard specials. Sabrina felt a jolt of nerves, not the old kind that made her cold or defensive, but the kind that made her want to stand up straight and be better. She smoothed her apron and approached their table, not rushed, not hesitant, just steady. "Welcome back," she said quietly, sincerely. "It's really good to see you again." Marcus and Danielle both noticed the tone. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't forced. It was earned. Danielle smiled softly. "It's good to see you too, Sabrina." Sabrina blinked. Surprised they remembered her name? Of course they did. People remember how you make them feel. The kids placed their orders with excitement. Sabrina wrote everything down carefully, checking details, making sure nothing was rushed or assumed. She brought their drinks with steady hands and thoughtful detail. This time, when Liam asked for more marshmallows in his hot chocolate, Sabrina smiled. "You got it," she said. "No extra charge." The boy beamed. Tom noticed from across the dining room. He watched the interaction, watched Sabrina not just serve, but connect. It was like witnessing someone step into their real self. When the meal ended, Marcus placed his hand lightly on the table before Sabrina could bring the check. "We didn't come today for work," he said. "We came because we wanted to." Sabrina felt her throat tighten. He continued, voice warm but grounded with truth. "We saw who you were that day, and we see who you are today. There is a difference, a real one." Sabrina nodded slowly, emotion rising in her chest. Not shame this time, but something gentler. "Thank you," she said. Not as a reflex, not to fill space, but because she meant it down to her bones. Chloe leaned forward, smiling with the open warmth only children can give without hesitation. "We like it here," she said. "And we like you." Sabrina's vision blurred for a second. She blinked fast, holding the moment carefully. "I like you too," she said, voice soft. When the Harris family stood to leave, Marcus reached into his coat and placed something on the table. Not an inspection form, not a notice, but a small business card. It read, Community Hospitality Partnership Program, Professional Development Scholarship. Below that was a handwritten note. "We think you'd be great at training others, too." Sabrina stared at the card as if it were a door, because it was. A door she had earned, step by step, choice by choice, moment by moment. The bell on the diner door jingled again as the Harris family walked out. The sunlight caught them as they left. Bright, warm, steady. And for the first time in a long time, Sabrina didn't just feel like she had a job. She felt like she had a future, a chosen one, a better one, a new one. Autumn settled into the town, the kind that painted trees in amber and gold and made the morning air crisp enough to feel new. The diner had changed in small ways that weren't flashy, but meaningful. A new chalkboard near the entrance now featured a message each week written in colorful marker. "Be kind first. Everything else comes after." No one had announced who wrote it, but everyone knew it was Sabrina. She was different now, not just in her tone or posture, but in something deeper. The way she listened. The way she moved between tables with steadiness, not impatience. The way she smiled because she wanted to, not because it was part of the job. She still had long shifts, long days, tired feet, but she didn't feel drained in the same way. Some days, she even felt proud. The scholarship card the Harris family had left her sat tucked safely in her wallet. She took it out sometimes just to look at the words again, to remind herself that growth wasn't just possible, it was already happening. She had started taking evening courses on hospitality management at the community center. Not fancy, not expensive, but real. And she was good at it. Better than good, actually. She had a natural understanding of people, now that she actually allowed herself to see them. One chilly morning, the diner opened at the usual 7 a.m., and Sabrina was already pouring coffee when Tom stepped out of his office, looking more serious than usual. He gathered the staff again, just like he had after the Harris family's first visit. Except this time, the air wasn't heavy. It was curious. "You all know how much the diner has improved these past few months," Tom began. "And that's not just from new guidelines or training. It's because of effort. Real effort." His eyes rested on Sabrina, not with the sharp weight of accountability, but with the steady warmth of recognition. "Sabrina," he said, "I know you've been taking courses. I know how hard you've worked to change, not just how you serve, but how you lead. So I'd like to make it official." He handed her a neatly folded sheet of paper. She unfolded it with shaky fingers. The heading read, Promotion, Floor Supervisor Training Program. Her name was written beneath it. Her name. The room burst into applause, warm and real. A few servers clapped her on the shoulder. Someone whistled. The cook in the back yelled, "About time!" Sabrina brought her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. She hadn't expected this. Not today. Maybe not ever. Tom continued, smiling now like someone who had been waiting to say this. "You earned this, not because someone was watching, not because of pressure, because you chose to grow. Every day." Sabrina blinked back tears, but not the painful kind. These were made of relief and gratitude, and the understanding that change wasn't just possible, it was happening in real time, in her own skin. Later that afternoon, as the lunch rush slowed and sunlight filtered through the windows in soft golden stripes, the door chimed again. The Harris family stepped inside, not for evaluation, not for follow-up, not for anything official. Just lunch. Just life. Marcus saw the new supervisor badge clipped to Sabrina's apron. His smile widened, proud, but not surprised. Danielle nodded once, that quiet, knowing kind of acknowledgement, shared only between people who recognize how hard becoming better truly is. Congratulations, Danielle said simply warmly. Sabrina exhaled, her voice steady and full. Thank you, she replied. I'm trying every day. Danielle smiled. That's all growth ever asks. The children waved, eager as always. And Sabrina didn't just take their order. She welcomed them. Not because they were inspectors, not because she owed them, but because kindness was now her choice, not her obligation. The Maple Crest Diner didn't look any different from the outside. But inside, something real had changed. A culture, a person, and a future. All because one moment challenged who she had been, and she chose who she would become instead. The end.